We're going to start by guessing about these various adorable babies. So take a look at these 6 pictures, and I want you to go through and just decide for yourself if this baby is a boy or a girl. And if we were together in class, this is how I would start class. And it's amazing how definitive students always are. Like as I point to the different pictures, students are like, "That's a boy, a girl, boy, girl." And I kind of ask you, like, "How did you know?" Right? Um, because so often we don't know. And I also ask, like, at what age do these babies, like, what age do human beings really start to figure out what their biological sex and gender are and what the implications are of that? Truth be told, I don't know what any of these babies' gender is because I Googled gender neutral baby faces and picked the cutest ones. But I do want to point out the question at the top of the PowerPoint. It's pretty problematic when you actually start to pay attention to it. And so I want you to take a second and think about, like, what's wrong with that question? And I'll show you. When we remove gender, we kind of remove humanity. Like when you say that's not how we refer to human beings. And so a better way of asking this would be to say, are they a boy or a girl? And so to think about the fact that gender is so tied to our humanity that when we remove pronouns, we go to something that means basically an object by saying it. So something to think about. Okay, first term I want to refer to is the definition, the sociological definition of biological sex. And it's interesting because you think about the fact that it's actually, we're not debating the fact that there are different bodies and that there are different chromosomes and things like that, but we're saying that the labels of man and woman, male and female, are socially constructed. And that's where so much of the meaning is. The bodies are the bodies. But think about the fact that we're agreeing to these labels and that has an enormous amount of weight in our society. So it's the application of socially agreed upon biological criteria. Then I want to share with you the definition that I usually use for gender, and that's by Weston Zimmerman. And so let me take you through it. It's routine, so like we do it every single day. It's methodical. We put a lot of thought into it. So if I were together with you in class, I usually admit to the fact, well, I don't have to admit to the fact that, I don't have to admit to the fact of anything, quite honestly. But I will share with you, rather, that I don't wear makeup. So I have no patience for it. I have no lips, so like lipstick would fall off of me. And, I'll use lotion that has SPF in it, but I just don't. But I do fill in my eyebrows because the edges of my eyebrows kind of don't exist. So that's it for makeup for me. And so thinking about the fact that I just said to you, like, I don't use makeup, but I make sure to use SPF, and lotion, and I do fill in the edges of my eyebrows. I don't color my hair and it's quickly becoming gray. You know how I dress, having seen me in class. Like I like skirts and patterns and colors and things like that. That's my routine, like every single day, thinking about, my face, my hair, whatever it is. And I'm very methodical about it, like we all are. So it's not like every single day we're analyzing every choice that we make, but the choices that we make overall in our gendered performance, we're thoughtful about. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Like, what are the things that you're thoughtful about? It's a reoccurring accomplishment. I will go through every single day, real like accomplishing femininity. And people buy it. People look at me and they think and see that I am feminine, and by virtue of that, that I am a woman because we link together biological sex and gender so much. And then the last thing, it's the longest, that we're managing our behavior. And so you see that word normative, you know what that means because we studied norms with socialization. I am acting and following along with the norms of what it means to be feminine. So something also to kind of think about for yourself. How do you follow along with feminine or masculine norms? Few more words that I want to share with you. First of all, is binary, because we live in a world where there's a gender binary. A binary means a system of two and a pair of opposites. And so when we refer to the gender binary, basically what we're saying is there's only 2 choices. There's female-bodied people who are feminine and male-bodied people who are masculine. And the way I'm going to walk you through kind of a phenomenon of seeing the power of this is gender reveal parties. And so gender reveal parties are for people who are pregnant with a baby. It's actually a misnomer, right? Because you're not revealing gender, you're revealing biological sex because they operate in different ways. but it shows the power of the binary. So please prepare for the fact that I'm about to show you 550 photos from gender reveal parties and quickly take you through them. So, gender reveal parties, everything's pink or blue, right? Look, he or she bars, right? You'll never look at Hershey bars again the same way. And you're gathering together to celebrate. And a lot of times there's a cake. And if you cut into the cake, what happens? There's pink or blue inside. If you're not having a party, you could possibly share pictures on social media and dump out things in a box, or have a sibling open boxes of stuff, or have you blindfold each other and put paint all over each other. I'm not judging, but different options. And so I'm just taking you through these as I continue to talk. So you can have poppers of confetti, you can have silly string, you can have piñatas, there's so many different choices, right? Other things you can do is kind of have your family and friends guess and kind of document it. You can apparently have a like popping balloons game. You can have snacks that are, slightly inappropriate yet funny. And so various options. Now, here's what's interesting with gender reveals most recently. Because who celebrates having babies, right? Historically, women. Women go to baby showers. People who are feminine are the people that usually celebrate babies. But nowadays, we have this phenomenon where we have explosions in relation to celebrating what a baby's biological sex is. And so it's kind of interesting to think about the fact that we have this very, very masculine phenomenon of blowing stuff up, but it's actually in relation to celebrating babies. So kind of the cross reference. Okay, let's invite you to these parties so you get to kind of see the various binary examples continuing. So tutus or ties, quarterback or cheerleader, cupcake or stud muffin. Lots of weaponry, because these are invitations from Etsy. And so like examples of invitations, digital invitations that you could buy. So I started to think, because the ones I just shared before, I actually got the screenshots of those a handful of years ago. And so I updated this, I think, last year. And I started to think, oh, wait, maybe it's starting to get to be a little bit more gender neutral as we discuss gender, but it actually hasn't. So a lot of hunting references, too, as you go around, because you've got to think there's more places in the United States than California. Just going through some of them. That one I just thought was kind of creepy, to be honest with you, not to be judgmental. And then still continuing on with the fact that there's weaponry in baby gathering invitations. So, okay, just a few more. These are kind of more lighthearted. I thought the he or siesta was a cute way to go. I think that one again kind of fits into the awkward party part. I thought this one was interesting too, Huggies or Chuggies, because basically now this is like the male masculine equivalent of a baby shower. Like, bring me diapers and let's drink beer together. And then I just thought we have to remember that norms around us are so dependent on geography, both in like the hunting and possibly guns. But again, like, here's a crawfish boil and a gender reveal. So kind of remembering that there's a world much outside the immediate geography of Southern California that we live in, that it would never probably occur to us that if we were going to have a gender reveal party, to have it be a crawfish boil. So, okay, norms. Again, this is coming directly from what we discussed at the beginning of the semester with socialization. Like, what are norms and how does this work in relation to gender norms? Because gender norms are some of the biggest, strongest norms that we have, right? And so those unwritten rules, and again, another visual example of making things explode, and something masculine such as a truck in relation to celebrating babies. So, okay, I want you to be on the lookout as you go through for the ways that you see the gender binary happening, and that there's only two choices, right? Because that's the way the gender binary works. And then the ways that you see gendered performances, like the Weston Zimmerman definition. If you didn't write down those words, go back and write them down. I'm not quite sure what the future holds in our class, but if we do gather back together for uh, tests and exams and things like that, that's something you just want to have handy just in case. But mostly what I want you to be doing is be on the lookout for what you see your friends and family doing. Catch yourself, the ways that you are demonstrating biological gender. Remember, with norms, they're broken sometimes. So check when you see that people are breaking norms around you, just to observe what's going on. And so lastly, the idea of the binary can be broken down by thinking about a continuum. And so a continuum is opposed to, and if I'd had you do this, do activities in class together, what I would actually have had you done is brainstorm various aspects of masculinity and femininity on a continuum, because some things are really hyper feminine, high heels. Trying to think of like things that are truly hyper feminine, because makeup nowadays, although still incredibly feminine, I wouldn't say that it's like at the very edges of being hyper femininity, because there are more men that are people who are male that are utilizing makeup, and there's makeup artists, and there's people doing YouTube video tutorials and things that are not all biologically female or necessarily 100% feminine. On the other side, like what is hyper masculine? I would say things like facial hair possibly would be hyper masculine, but there's things like sports. If you think about a continuum of sports, there are many sports that are both, kind of gender neutral. There's elements of soccer, absolutely. There's volleyball and things like that. But then there's some sports that, by virtue of playing them, are still masculine, like football. But watching football, where would that fall on a continuum? Because I would say that that would kind of go to a little bit more towards the middle as opposed to the edges of masculinity. So kind of visualize, a continuum that some things are super masculine, and on the other side, some things are super feminine. But then in between all of that is things that are, they're masculine, but they're kind of almost androgynous. They're human qualities. It's something everybody does. There's things that are feminine that are, you know, again, maybe some things are more feminine than others. Think about foods. Think about, everything. Think about what's a dog that would be considered really masculine if you owned this dog. What would be a dog that would be considered relatively feminine? Think about clothing. Think about behaviors and the ways that we classify this. Think about just drinks, right? So, like a caramel macchiato, frappuccino. I don't even know all the words that I can think of off the top of my head with, extra whipped cream. Is that very masculine? So even think about the various little details in our life. Pay attention to them, to see what you see that is feminine, to see that what you see as masculine, to see how they fit into our gendered performances, and to see how, granted, we have biological sex, we have bodies, but really the power a lot of times is the way that we divide up gender and gendered performances. So packed in a lot into a handful of minutes. I hope this has been useful to kind of get you thinking and paying attention. It's another crayon moment, right? We talked about this at the beginning of the semester. You know gender, you know how it works, but here's a chance to really pay attention to it and hopefully see it in new ways.